recommendation, but you know, and now that I've gotten older and I look back over it, I would have done the same thing. If I'm going to pay you a good salary and I need you what's best for the company, and if you won't take it, I ought to let you go. Now, you know, that is just common good sense to me as I've aged. Of course, I was angry at the time because I felt the man did me an injustice. That was the best he had, you know. But I left on my way. I was in Chicago, and he had given me 2 weeks terminal pay and my vacation. And on my way, I bumped into a guy I knew who told me about a company in Owatonna that was looking for a guy in sales. And it was Johnston out in Owatonna, Minnesota, just south of Milwaukee. He called the guy from Chicago. The guy says, hey, I come to Atlanta and see him. I came back. He came, and within 2 days, I was headed back into Johnston to learn their business of selling high school rings and supplies to high school students. I took that job, did well. I made more in that year than I'd ever made because I was drawing school. I could sell a school, I could sell high school girls that ring. You had to do it on competition. And I was competing with white salesmen in the South. None of them could offer what I was. I was a black professional going into black high schools. And I could make a speech to some high school students that would make a principal of that school say the best thing ever been in there, because they did not see black professionals. You know, driving a new car, dressed nice, and that was it. So I had the edge on them. And they were saying I wasn't a good salesman. You know what they were saying? You're not a good salesman. You usually got the edge on. You're a black salesman, only black salesman there. And most of the other companies at that time began to hire, looking for black salesmen to do that. Now, I could begin to see some ripples. I could begin to see integration coming. And I said, if I make this investment and establish it, if the schools integrate, and you still got white superintendents who control those schools, where will I be? Because, you know, this has never happened in this country before. So I had to make a decision then. I'd better get into something a little bit moving. By this time, my wife is doing all right teaching, you know what I mean? And I began to say, hey, you know, I'm getting older. I'd better start looking for a career. At this time, I guess the housing authority was looking for a person, and they wanted as a housing manager. And that was a pretty good salary at that time. And my wife didn't like to travel either. So I left that job and then went with the housing authority. And I guess the old sociology that I had, and I've always had an interest in people. I'd always worked in my church. I began to make a difference in the housing. And I kept saying that these people, even though they're poor, want the same thing that you or I want where we live. And they can't do it without a job. And how can they get a job? And I would begin a guy who couldn't pay his rent. I had developed a point where employers who were looking, and these were the people who were first-line supervisors, I got to know them. And I could pick up the phone. I got this kind of guy. He'll come out and give you a good job. And I'd tell him, it's a good job. It's got tenure. You can keep it and take care of your family. So that increasingly, first-line supervisors began to tell others, I can't get good people who are going to work. Call Cox out at Bowen Home, you know, and see. So and increasingly, finally one day the guy with the Urban League came to me and said, you know, you're doing what we do anyway, and I can give you a better salary. So I took it and I went. So I enjoyed it. It was very rewarding. That's about it.
Thank you very much.
That's a picture of the first uh, platoon of blacks being trained at Mumford Point Marine uh,
Are you in this
Marine Corps.
picture?
I can't find me.
You can't find you?
No, I've looked and looked. I've even got. Now you can see you've got white training officers. See, yeah, and those are the first blacks.
And y'all are wearing the
Those pit helmets.
pith helmets.
Yeah, that's right. Here's something in this book. Wonder can I remember all of them? Yes, this is the first 6 PFCs who were promoted and the black Marines who were promoted at Camp Lejeune. That is the first person. That's Bostic, Davis, Hashmark Johnson. He actually stayed in and upon retirement was a sergeant major. He stayed in. These 2 stayed in after the war. That's Huff and that's Allen. I call them all.
Which one is you?
I am number
You're
one,
the
right the
first
front,
guy.
right.
All right.
Yeah. That's Cox, Bostic, Davis, Johnson, Huff, and Allen. God, I haven't done that in years. It's becoming, you see, it's just deteriorating after 50-some years.
Right.
And I would hate for that to happen. With 56 years ago today, let me tell my wife I did that.
So when was this photograph taken?
1943. 1943. I had a picture in my dress blues.
And what is this rank you've got here?
I was a platoon sergeant. Yeah. My rank, I always acted ahead of my rank. I was acting first sergeant there. Yeah. They couldn't promote you fast enough. Yeah. And see, the white troops would get so angry. Boy, when you made corporal, see when you made corporal in that dress blues, you could put that blue stripe. And that was their crowning hope to make corporal. So they got a blue stripe. Boy, and you came in a short time you had it. I remember my wife, I was in 43. My wife and I was waiting on a train to Washington. Well, we at Raleigh, and I was out, and 2 Marines came up and said, "You haven't been in service too long. We're gonna make you prove that you can wear those chevrons, you know, that red stripe down there." And my wife is standing up there, and they were ready to fight. So all you got to do is just prove it. If you can handle yourself, that was it. Boy, I says, okay, I'll take you one at a time. One came up, he gave me his best blow. I gave him my best blow, and he went sailing back. I was in good shape. He was sailing back against the wall. I hit the other one, he went sailing back. That guy, both of them started getting up to come again. You know, my wife standing up, and she's scared to death. 2 MPs turned the corner. I never so happy to see 2 MPs. Because I give them my best shot. Yeah, and they were getting up. Boy, they were old salty, man. I guess they had been in the Marine Corps 15 to 20 years. But they were ready. And it was nothing to them. It was just saying, you're going to prove that you can wear those stripes. Boy, that's something else there. It was something.
Tell us when and where.
That's December 1944 in Pearl Harbor, Honolulu.
And who is that with you?
That is my gunnery sergeant. That's my gunnery sergeant. That's Wingate, the mess sergeant. McCord. Yeah, that's McCord, the gunnery sergeant, and that's Sergeant Wingate, the mess sergeant. Good cook, too. Good cook.
And the other person is you.
It's me. Right.
And that is in?
Right, in Honolulu.
Honolulu.
1944. Yeah.
Tell us what this is.
That is a diary. It seemed to me at a going away party, someone gave me that book, and I said I was going to keep it. I did keep it completely until January of '44. I was married and my dues. I quit writing in it. I did write one entry upon discharge. Uh, but the interesting thing, the interesting thing that I see in that, and I didn't know it at the time, there is no bitterness. And that's amazing to me. I interpreted everything that was happening to me without the bitterness. I was frustrated quite often. I could tell every time I was frustrated with troops when they misunderstood, because they would, usually during boot camp. They get so angry with you, they swear that if I ever see you, you will not live, And I know that that didn't happen, because the moment they complete it, they always, what can I give you? You know what I mean? Always that. And all my life I have traveled, and I would never, I was in San Francisco one year, and where was I? It was a police gathering at a hotel downtown. And nothing but believe me, this guy came over and started talking. I know you from somewhere. I know you from somewhere. And it's pleasant. And just kept talking. He had been a Marine. And I don't even remember his name. He remembered just my feature and that it was pleasant. And when we started talking, where have you been, all of this, and then finally we said, where have you were in service? I said, I was in the Marine Corps. And the moment I said Marine Corps, he said, Sergeant Cox. Just like that. And he carried me all over the city, introduced me. This man made a man out of me, He was either chief of detectives or something of San Francisco police. But it's that kind of thing, that you made such an impact. My brother once worked at Chrysler in Detroit. And one day, a guy said to him, the only guy I know was named Cox, Sergeant Cox in the Marine Corps. If I ever see him, I'm going to kill that SOB, that kind of thing. And my brother, never said that was my brother. He didn't want to take away. But he went, I was there visiting one day, and all at once we were walking somewhere, and he tried to change my direction. I said, what's that? He was trying to get there. Pretty soon that guy looked and spotted me. And he said, Sergeant Cox grabbed me. Oh, he kept us in a bar. I wanted to buy all that. He said, I don't understand that. He said, you said you were going to kill my brother. He said, man, that's where you always feel. He said, but this man made a man out of me. And it goes across board like that. If a guy gets through, because you do. You see a child who's brilliant, bitter, and mean turn out to be a lovely person who can do anything and will do. So it makes a difference, yeah.